Hi, my name is Matthew, and I'm here to show off my Kinematics project for fall 2013. The project itself was to build a chain of mechanisms, at least three, basically a crankshaft that when you turn it, it goes through the chain and it does something. So I'm building off of a Halloween project that I did last year, which is where I built a mimic costume. This is only part of it, but the basic idea is to do a Final Fantasy VI battle scene in which there are two players being driven by the same crankshaft. So one of them is driven by one single mechanism, a cam, and then the other one is driven by a chain. And so that is what I want to show off first. This right here, and I'm completely using my digital media degree by doing this in one-shot video, this is the chain, at least two pieces of the chain, two of the mechanisms. So the first part, you'll see here is a Geneva gear, and then there's its pair, and then on the same shaft there's another Geneva and another pair, and in this photo they don't line up, but obviously they would in the final product. And then that is connected to a gear set right there, and then there'll be this gear, and then there'll be another one on the end right here. So first of all, I want to talk about the fabrication process for this. So the gears were purchased. Skycraft had some 2-to-1 gear ratio pairs, which is exactly what I needed, but for the actual Geneva gears, let me back up so it's focused a little bit. These are actually printed from a CNC mill, and these are, as you might be able to tell in here, is a little bit hard, but they have a lot of flashing and problems on them. These are the problem gears that I just have left over, since obviously the other ones are inside the actual product. But the whole idea is that this, when this rotates one full turn, the pylon catches in there and then rotates this a quarter turn. Now these, as you might be able to see, those flashing right there, these won't actually mesh. So for every one turn, you get a quarter turn. So that means when you go back up to this rotates one full time, that rotates a quarter, which means that rotates a quarter. So every time this rotates 4 times, this one rotates once, which means this rotates a quarter, which means this rotates a quarter. And again, this is a 2-to-1 gear ratio and another 2-to-1. So when this rotates 1 quarter, this last gear will rotate 1 full turn. And then that is going to drive the third mechanism, which, let me go through these photos here. You can see just, so here at the edge, you can see the beginnings of it. There is a linkage set here. These, backing down here again, little pieces like this. This is just attached to a shaft with some washers just so I can hold it. But basically these were printed using a 3D printer modeled in SolidWorks. And that's going to be attached to a full set of linkage, which, let me pop into SolidWorks really quick and show you the final animation. So basically this is what you're seeing in that photo, the little links at the bottom. And it's going to rotate like this. Let me see if I can get a smoother motion. There we go. This is a quick return 4-bar linkage, so it has a little bit more speed going through one of the motions than the other if I'm rotating it constantly. So theoretically the idea is the top part should slowly rise and then quickly come down, and the reason for that you'll see in just a moment. So going back here, so you have that whole linkage. And then we go here, here's it being assembled, and on the top here you can see that longer piece, and that's eventually going to go through the top. And you can see there is, I guess I could use the mouse pointer, there is the other gear. So all this is in place, all of it is oiled up and everything, so theoretically it should be working fine. And then, yeah, just another shot of that. And then this is it being built, and this is the inside. So we're looking at it from the right side, so you can see that small gear on the end, and then there's the linkage, and the linkage goes up here to the stage area. And so this is where we show off the actual project, which is a Final Fantasy VI battle scene. And then here's the actual project right here. So here's the crankshaft, and then so that's tied to the first Geneva, and then its pair, the second Geneva and its pair, the first gear and its pair, and the second large gear and its pair. And then that goes all the way back to the 4-bar linkage driving our character here to make his sword rise and fall as he attacks the monster. Which in this case, if you're familiar, this is Locke and a mimic. And the mimic is driven by a cam on the drive shaft, which will slowly lift and close his mouth as a sort of idle animation. So the final idea behind the project is that as you give a constant velocity, angular velocity to this, as you're rotating it, this will be driven constantly, slowly rising and falling with the cam, and then this one, every 4 turns, will do a little slash animation. Now, this is where I have to talk about some of the problems that happened with this. And these are just some other shots of it, but obviously you just saw it, so we can go ahead and get out of this. Close up, you might be able to see easier in the photo. Basically, there are 2 posts behind Locke, and then that has a bar going across that holds the small link at the top that's holding a sword, and then on the back side of it right there, you can see there's the other link that goes down into the box itself. And then here's a shot of that from the back. So once again, there's the small link holding the sword, and then there's the longer link that's going to go down into that little slot cut into the stage. And then that's Locke on the front right there, and then that's the sword right there. And this is a shot of the inside when it's assembled. This hole right here, right next to this shaft, that's where the cam would be, and the piece that's inside of there would have a follower on it that would be on top of the cam. And then right here is, again, that crankshaft. And so the idea, it kind of works, but it's a little intermittent. And the reason is the gears got unmeshed at one point. There's some other problems that are obviously the Mimic is not moving. This is because the cam disappeared. It was sitting on my table with everything else. I went to assemble it. It was there for days. Suddenly it was gone. So currently the Mimic doesn't move, but the 3 mechanism chain for Locke works exactly as it should. Minor little details with measurements. The motto for this project is measure 79 times cut 80. On the fight command, there's a little pointer finger going like this as a cursor, and the idea was that this bar was supposed to go straight through that, but due to changes in design and then not compensating for it in certain aspects of it, that measurement didn't get fixed. And then this right here, that was supposed to fit perfectly, but as you can see, there's a little bit of a lip on the bottom, and then the back side actually isn't fully connected, but this was the most structurally sound way to put it together. It doesn't help when you don't have your own garage full of mechanical tools, and you have to keep running to your friend's house while you're doing all the computer work at your own house over the course of like 3 or 4 days of manic construction. So I don't recommend that, but I also don't have thousands of dollars for my own equipment, so yeah. That being said, I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I think it looks really cool, and even though it doesn't work flawlessly, at least I'm still able to get somewhat of an animation out of him. And here you can see right here, this is the Geneva mechanism going through the rotations where it doesn't do anything with Locke, and then there's one where it does. But the gears become unmeshed at some point, like halfway through the rotation sometimes, and so theoretically his sword should do a full up and down for every rotation, and instead it just kind of randomly goes through part of that rotation. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I apologize it was super long, and hopefully my next project comes out even better. Later.